crowd, realizing no more tigers were to come, stood up and began to shout and wave their arms. A long stone platform stood immediately beneath Ming's glass box. Flash jumped up on this and grinned at the Emperor. "I am Flash Gordon," he called out, "of the planet Earth." "And I am Tun, the Lion Man," said Tun, jumping up beside Flash. "We have won the contest and now claim our freedom," said Flash toward the box 10 feet above. Ming's breath fogged the glass as he leaned to look down at the two victors. Gradually, a smile twisted his lips, turning up the corners. "Here is what you have won for your friend and yourself, Flash Gordon." The entire stone platform fell away like a great trapdoor. Flash and the Lion Man went plunging down and down into the darkness. Flash awoke. He was surrounded by a thick blackness. He remembered falling a considerable distance and landing on rocky ground. After that, he had passed out. "Tun," he called in a dry voice. "Tun, are you here?"
"By the one beady orb of the god of the waters," exclaimed Tun faintly. "That was a fall, was it not?"
"A good 20 feet.
From the feel of myself, I broke nothing essential."
Tun grunted as he sat up.
"How did you fare, my friend?"
"A few lumps and bruises, nothing more."
"Now you have seen for yourself how Ming the Merciless keeps his promises."
Flash said, "I imagine we're in one of his dungeons."
"Aye, and we may have seen the last of daylight. You know, my friend, I can understand why Ming hates me. It's only fair, after all, since the Lion Men hate him. You, however, are a pleasant lad come here to make a friendly visit."
"It must have something to do with Dale."
"Ah, I should have thought of that. Ming has no doubt taken a fancy to the girl."
Flash's fists clenched. "I'm afraid that's it."
"Someone is coming,"
whispered Tun. The footsteps were light, barely sounding on the stones of the corridor outside. They halted in front of the cell door. Keys rattled softly, 2 locks clicked, and a bolt was drawn. The door swung outward. Princess Aura, wearing a full-length black cloak with its hood hiding her auburn hair, stood there. She stepped into the cell.
"Come with me quickly," she whispered. "I have an airship waiting."
Flash took hold of her arm. "I can't leave the capital without Dale."
"If you stay here, you'll die. You must come with me now, Flash."
"You know where Dale is?"
Aura said, "Yes, she's in the North Tower, in the women's quarters."
"Tell me how to get there," said Flash. After a second's hesitation, the princess said,
"Very well. Here is what you must do."
She gave him detailed instructions as quickly as she could on how to get from the dungeons to the North Tower of the palace. "Tun, you go with Aura to the airship. When I have Dale clear of the palace, I'll join you. Aura, where is the ship hidden?"
"On the outskirts of town, near the river."
She told him exactly where the craft was. "Good luck to you then, my friend. We'll be waiting," said Tun. "Wait only an hour, no more." Flash stepped out into the corridor and moved away from them. It took Flash 10 minutes to travel through the walls of the dungeon, across a concealed catwalk into the walls of Ming's palace. He encountered no one. Finally, he reached the point inside the North Tower that he was seeking. He located a stone flower on the wall and twisted it a full turn to the right. A narrow slice of wall swung inward. Thick velvet draperies blocked his view. Flash listened for a moment before finding the slit in the curtains and parting them a fraction of an inch. He saw the door of Dale's apartment and a guard seated before it. He was awake. Flash coughed. The man sat up, glancing around. He left his chair and came cautiously down the marble floor of the hall. Flash's fist shot swiftly through the parting in the curtains to connect with the guard's jaw. Before the unconscious man could hit the floor, Flash had yanked him into the secret passage. Working rapidly, he bound and gagged the guard with strips torn from the man's own garments. After borrowing his cloak and keys, Flash stepped out into the corridor and moved silently closer to the door. He got the correct key on the second try, unlocked Dale's door, and pushed it carefully open. He entered the apartment, closing the door behind him. The dark-haired girl was at the open door to the balcony, watching the night sky. She turned, saying, "You're not supposed—" "Flash!" She came running across the thick white fur rug to him. "It's taken longer than I planned to find you."
Oh, Flash!
She put her arms round him. Flash kissed her, then gently pushed her back. "We've got to get out of here right now, Dale." He led her towards the door. "Does Ming have Dr. Zarkov?"
No, she said. Didn't you rendezvous with him after the crash?
"I was too late," replied Flash. "My guess is he was grabbed by someone, but if not by Ming's men, I don't know who." Dale gave him one more quick hug.
Okay, I'm ready, she said.
Flash and Dale made their way out of the palace without further incident, and within 15 minutes they had joined Aura and Tun at the waiting airship. 5 minutes later they were in the air and heading for the country of the Lion Men. They set down some hours after sunset, on a ridge outside Tun's village, which was ablaze with light and movement. They made their way carefully and cautiously down into the village, which seemed to be crowded with people in party mood. Several rough-hewn oaken tables had been set out in the streets of the village. Thick tallow candles in copper holders sat on the tables, flickering and splashing yellow light amid huge platters of meat, bread, vegetables, and loose piles of fruit and nuts.
"By the wart on the nose of the god of joy!"
cried a shaggy, red-haired lion man who was in the act of raising a mug of ale to his lips.
"It is Tun! Come home!"
Other lion men and women noticed Tun and began to cluster round him, hugging him, kissing him, whacking him heartily on the back. There were about 200 lion men, women and children filling the streets of the village, circling the feast tables. There were also some 50 men in tunics and tights of woodland green. Many of the men wore quivers of arrows on their backs. "What exactly," asked Dale, "is everyone celebrating?"
"We have reached an agreement with Prince Baron's people,"
said one of the lion men with a grin.
"Is Baron here?"
A tall young man with light hair and moustache turned toward them.
"The prince remains in Arborea," he said. "I am Tomo."
He held out his hand to Flash.
"I'll hazard the guess that you're Flash Gordon."
Shaking his hand and grinning, Flash asked, "How is it you know my name?" Tomo smiled.
"You don't yet realize you've become something of a celebrity on Mongo. And now that the Lion Men have agreed to fight with us against Ming, I think the tide will turn. We have 4 air cruisers with us, and tomorrow we will be returning to Arborea with the signed agreements which have been executed this day with the Lion Men. Will you come with us, Flash?"
"I'd be happy to," said Flash.
"We should be able to help you repair your ship after bringing it back from the jungle."
Tun came bouncing up to Flash's side. He reached across him to shake Tomo's hand.
"I am most happy that in my absence my people have had the sense to become your allies," he said. "I feel that all Mongo will soon be free." "Yes," said Tomo, "though it may require a long, hard fight." "Lion men like nothing better than a fight."
Tun put an arm round Flash's shoulders.
"Perhaps we can persuade Flash to fight along with us."
"We'll see," said Flash. The air cruisers took off on the following day around mid-morning and headed for Arborea. For the first couple of hours the journey was smooth and uneventful. Then, suddenly, the midday sky grew dark. An enormously loud flapping sound surrounded them. Tomo leaped from his chair in the passenger compartment and ran to a window.
"A great flock of them!" he shouted, "swooping down on us!"
Flash and Dale hurried to join him.
"What are those things?"
asked Dale.
"They're called harpybats,"
said Tomo, as he watched the huge flying reptiles swarming outside.
"One of the oldest surviving life forms on Mongo. Now and again the notion strikes them to attack our ships."
The harpybats hooted and screeched as they circled the air cruiser, coming within inches of the wings. Tomo had crossed to a communication panel and was giving out instructions.
"Start firing at them," he ordered.
The blaster beams began to sizzle and crackle. A giant harpybat who had been diving toward their window was hit. His sharp green head turned to dust. Then another was blasted to soot as it swooped towards one of the wings.
"Prepare to land,"
Tomo told the pilot. We are fairly close to Arborea. Flash, look, said Dale, pointing. They forced down one of our ships, said Flash to the preoccupied Tomo. I've just called Arborea for some help, said the blonde-moustached young man. Flash's ship was successfully holding off the shrieking harpybats. More and more of them were being destroyed. Their air cruiser had dropped 1,000 feet. Dr. Zarkov stood with one screwdriver held in his teeth and another in his right hand. He had been working on the blaster cannon in the ship's nose since a few minutes after dawn. There was a welter of tools spread all around him on the hangar floor. It was after midday now, and through the half-open door of the hangar, the trunks of the huge trees of Arborea shone a bright gold in the sunlight. Zarkov made a satisfied sound.
Finished. All fixed. Haven't tested the thing yet, but I guarantee this blaster cannon will work several 100 times better than anything you boys have at the moment.
Very good, said Anmar. We've had word about your friends, Flash Gordon and Dale Arden. They're heading for Arborea. They escaped from Ming and were picked up by some of our people. The air cruisers in which they are all traveling are being attacked by a swarm of gigantic flying reptiles.
That doesn't sound too good.
We are sending a fleet of ships to help them. You believe this air cruiser is ready to do battle?
I guarantee it,
boomed Zarkov in his loudest voice.
So, let's get going.
Tomo jabbed a finger skyward. Look at that, Flash, he exclaimed. Have you ever seen the likes of that? 3 heavily armed rescue ships had arrived from Arborea. They were rapidly taking care of the flock of giant harpybats. One ship in particular was eliminating more than its share of the flying reptiles. What manner of weapon is mounted on that third ship? Asked the excited Tomo. It disintegrates the creatures instantly. I've never witnessed anything like this before. All the harpybats had now either been destroyed or had retreated. The rescue ship dropped down to join the air cruisers in the forest clearing. Flash, taking Dale's hand, walked toward the ship which had been using the new type of blaster cannon. Before they reached it, a side door burst open and a large bearded man in a green jumpsuit leaped out.
I knew it would outshine anything available on Mongo. What do you think of it, Flash?
A great breakthrough on the harpybat extermination front, Doc, said Flash, grinning. Dale threw her arms around the burly scientist. Zarkov, you're not dead.
Dead? With my constitution? I hear you've been giving Ming all sorts of trouble, Flash. Killing off apes and tigers, lions.
Only tigers, corrected Flash. The Lion Men I made friends with. Speaking of which, they've promised to find our survey ship and bring it here to Arborea so it can be patched up. Zarkov tugged at his beard.
Oh, yes, the survey ship.
You don't sound very enthusiastic about getting it fixed, Dale told him. Don't you want to get back to our orbiting lab?
Eventually, answered the doctor. I tell you, there are several interesting problems I know I can lick right here in Arborea. The biggest of which is Ming.
He paused a moment, then asked,
Would you mind staying on here a while longer, you two? There's a good deal to be done.
Well, what do you think? Did Flash, Dale, and Zarkov return to their orbiting lab? Or did they stay on Mongo to help in the fight against Ming the Merciless?